Okay, so we're on Daf. What is this? Chaf Vav Amud Beis. And really, the printer, he put the Mishnah before a couple of pages, but the Char goes together with this Mishnah. Over there it says, the end of the previous Mishnah said that you're allowed to eat achilas arai out of the sukkah. Ochel v'shos nari chus the sukkah. And then this Mishnah is a continuation, so it would have been a bit nicer if they would have put the Mishnahs together. It's the printer who divided the Mishnahs within the Gemara. So the Gemara says, let's get a little bit bigger over here. It was a story that they brought Reb Mazakai to taste the food. From the kitchen, they brought him to taste the food, if it's good, if he likes it, if he needs more seasoning. And Rabbi Gamliel, they brought 2 dates and a bucket of water, a pitcher of water. And they said, both of these cases, Reb Mazakai and Rabbi Gamliel, they said, bring it up to the sukkah. They didn't want to eat it out of the sukkah. The Mishnah before said, you're allowed to eat achilas arai. These are cases of achilas arai. This is just to taste the food or water, dates. And the Gemara is asking that this is considered achilas arai. The Gemara is concerned as the kasha that it seems to be against the Mishnah. The Mishnah said before that you are allowed to eat achilas arai, and here it says that they ate it in the sukkah. We'll see soon. And another story, which is the opposite direction, when they gave Rabbi Tzadok food, the word ochel means food. When they gave Rabbi Tzadok food less than a beitza, the size of an egg, so the main point we want to say is that he ate it out of the sukkah. That's our main issue, is that he did eat it out of the sukkah. And here that does support the Mishnah before that said that achilas arai is permissible out of the sukkah. And that's what the Mishnah wants. First it said about Reb Yochanan Mazaki, Reb Gamliel, that they ate achilas arai in the sukkah. And then it says, Rabbi Tzadok ate achilas arai out of the sukkah. I got the Mishnah also says 2 other points in that same story where it was food less than a beitza, less than the volume of an egg. It was bread. It wasn't an egg. It was a bread less than the volume of an egg. He took it in a kerchief, in a handkerchief, a mappa, that he didn't touch it. But the main point the Mishnah wants is that he didn't wash the Netilas Yadayim. And the way Rashi learns, the main point of this Mishnah is to say that he ate it without Netilas Yadayim. And also says that then he did say Berachas Hamazon, because less than a kibetz, he also said you're not chayav to say Berachas Hamazon less than the volume of an egg. We'll see what we pass him right away. But Rabbi Tzadok, he said that if it's a bread less than the volume of an egg, I don't have to wash Netilas Yadayim, I don't have to eat it in the sukkah, and I don't need Berachas Hamazon.
What was the last 3 words?
He didn't say Berachas Hamazon. He didn't.
Berach. He didn't berach after.
He didn't bless afterward. He didn't say it after bracha. He didn't say Berachas Hamazon. So as far as the sukkah goes, the Rabbi Yochanan Mazaki and Rabbi Gamliel, they did eat achilas arai out of the in the sukkah dafka, and Rabbi Tzadok ate it out of the sukkah. Agav, it also comes in about Netilas Yadayim and Berachas Hamazon less than a beit. So Rabbi Tzadok says it's not fine. The fellow B'mapah, Rashi says that's because he didn't want to touch the food because of cleanliness, hygiene. So he took it with Mappa. Taisa doesn't like that. Taisa has a reason why he might have taken it because of Hilchas Truma, a side point. But as far as what the main point of the Gemara, the Mishnah is to say that he did not do Netilas Yadayim. So back to the issue of Sukkah, the Gemara doesn't understand. The Mishnah just finished saying that you're allowed to eat casual, temporary meal out of the sukkah. So why does the Mishnah say now that you do have to eat in the sukkah? Ma'isa Listor, it's bringing a story which is a contradiction. It means usually a story is a support. You say whatever you hold, and then you bring a story to support you. Here it brings says a statement, then it brings a story which is contradicting, that you do have to eat in the sukkah. The Gemara answers, you have to edit the Mishnah a little bit. Something's missing. It doesn't mean they're actually missing. It means that it's understood that something should be put in between. In Baal Achmir, last one Machmir, but let's be Mishum Yorah. If someone wants to be Machmir, even though we just said that it's permissible to eat achilas arai out of the sukkah, we're not going to say if somebody's Machmir daf katit in the sukkah that is considered arrogance, that he's saying he's doing more than the letter of the law. You're allowed to, and it's a preferable thing. It's a good thing to be Machmir, but you don't have to, but you may. And the Gemara just then the Mishnah brings the story to support this second point, that you're allowed to be machmir. You might sometimes you're not supposed to be machmir because it looks like arrogance. No one else is doing it. You're doing it. It looks like arrogance. So the more brought the Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan Mazaki and Rabbi Gamliel, that they were machmir. It's not considered arrogance. I just don't know how is this a proof that a regular person is not to be machmir. Maybe only Rabbi Yochanan Mazaki. We say sometimes that the Chachamim could be machmir. That doesn't mean that every other person could be machmir. So here the Gemara is not bothered by that, and it says anybody's allowed to be machmir. But again, the Gemara still holds you don't have to. That's the end of the first sugya. Why don't you come out that you don't have to eat in the sukkah achilas arai, but you may be machmir? It's not considered arrogance. The Mishnah continued. New sugya. That's the quotation of the Mishnah. When Rabbi Tzadok was given food less than the size of bread less than the volume of an egg, he did not wash until Shadayim. He ate it out of the sukkah, and he did not say Berachas Hamazon. Okay, Beitza boy sukkah. It's mashma that the criteria for being chayiv or not is a Beitza. It says the Mishnah says it took less than the volume of an egg. Why does it stress that was the amount? Because if it would have been the volume of an egg, then he would have been chayiv in sukkah. That sounds like that's already considered achilas keva. Achilas sarah is less than the volume of an egg, but if it would have been the volume of an egg, then it may be smashma that it seems to imply that it would have been chayiv in sukkah. If so, it's a kasha on yesterday's Gemara. Yesterday, Rav Yosef said that 2 or 3 eggs volumes is still considered arai, or the gersa might be morsels, but our Gemara, they bring down, Rashi here says that a morsel is the size of an egg. It means that as much as a person can swallow in one swallow is the size of an egg. It means the Gemara knew that says that. So there's no difference what the gersa was yesterday. Either it means a egg volume or it means a morsel. It's all the same. That's considered the size of an egg. And the Yosef said yesterday that 3 eggs is still considered achilas arai. Abai said no, maybe that's a keva, but 1 egg is considered arai. And our Gemara seems to say that 1 egg is considered a keva because Rav Tzadok ate less than an egg. Mashma that the volume of an egg is considered a keva already. So it's again a contradict both Rav Yosef and even Abai. The Gemara says it's not approved. Maybe this point of kibetza the Mishnah is talking about is not coming to say the criteria, the break-off point for sukkah. There are 3 issues as the Mishnah talks about Netilas Yadayim and sukkah and Berachas Hamazon. The break-off point for Netilas Yadayim and Berachas Hamazon, that is going to be a kibetza. But the break-off point for sukkah might be more. It means it's not muchach to disprove a bind of Yosef. The Mishnah here says he took a less than a kibetza because there's story and other parts to it also. Not only did he eat it out of the sukkah, he also didn't wash the Netilas Yadayim. He also didn't say Berachas Hamazon over there. The cutoff point is going to be a kibetza. But maybe the cutoff point for eating out of the sukkah would have even been more. And that's what the poskim say. We pass on like a Abaye that an egg, the volume of bread, the volume of an egg is still allowed to eat out of the sukkah. You're just not allowed to eat more than that. More than that is going to be considered a kvias. Like the Abaye says, 2 or 3 eggs, that's already considered a kvias by some people. But an egg is still permissible. And that's what we pass. We pass like a Abaye that an egg, the volume of an egg of bread, you're allowed to eat out of the sukkah. Even bread. Not only kazais, even a kibetza, just don't eat more than a kibetza.
We're basically very machmir because
if you want to be machmir, you can be machmir. Who's we?
Rebbe.
from Jews.
If you want to, you don't have to. You're allowed to eat. You're allowed to eat achilas arai chos l'sukkah.
Rebbe, isn't it interesting that the shiur is still machayev you in Berachas Hamazon?
Yes, and to point out even more than that, we pass in Berachas Hamazon is even a kazayas. We don't pass like this Gemara. This Gemara goes that the kibetza. That's the Mechlok Shabbein Rabbi Yehuda in Maseches Brachos, I think. How much do you have to eat in order to be chayiv in Berachas Hamazon? Mechlok is a kazayas and a kibetza. We pass in the kazayas. So if you eat the volume of an olive, you have to say Berachas Hamazon. So that's against our Gemara. And as Manuel is pointing out, that you'll be saying Berachas Hamazon and you will not be eating in the sukkah. Yeah, that could be. As far as washing. How about washing? So Agmar also says that you don't wash for less than a kibetza. You don't wash the Netilas Yadayim for bread less than a kibetza. So that's already a machlokes. Some say that it only goes to shitaso. Since he holds you don't say Berachas Hamazon less than a kibetza, so then you don't wash either less than a kibetza. But we pass in the kazayis. Maybe the shear is a kazayis. And I'm not sure. That's 1 second, please. Others say not like that. Others say that the shear of washing also is still going to be a kibetza. So as far as the halacha comes out, 3 things we have here: sukkah, Berachas Hamazon, and the Netilas Yadayim. Three issues. So as far as sukkah, we said that a kibetza you still get out of the sukkah. More than a kibetza, eat in the sukkah of bread. As far as the Berachas Hamazon, we pass in the kazayis. If you eat a kazayis of bread, you say Berachas Hamazon. As far as the Netilas Yadayim, so if you're going to eat a kibetza, the volume of an egg, so then you say the Netilas Yadayim. You do the Netilas Yadayim with a bracha between a kazayis and a kibetza. So there's a machlok, it's a suffix. So you do wash the Netilas Yadayim, but without a bracha. You don't say al Netilas Yadayim. Unless than the kazayis, if it happens to be you want to take some mamash amashu, less than a volume of an olive of bread, you'll say a motzi. That's the bracha, motzi, and anything. But you don't have to wash. You're allowed to eat less than a kazayis of bread without washing. Between an olive and an egg, wash without a bracha. Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, when you think about it from the perspective of what all the sugyas are agreeing on, which is that it has to be Teshvu Kein Teduru. So it's all quite consistent, just like we discussed that you're allowed to go somewhere where you would normally go, even though it means missing the mitzvah. Here also, when
Yes,
you
that's
travel and whatever, you would eat outside, you would eat wherever you are. So if you always look at Teshvu Kein Teduru, it does make sense.
Very good, very good. The source to say that you're allowed to eat achilas aray out of the sukkah is because people eat achilas aray out of their house. But a kviyas, they don't eat out of their house. So therefore, that's why the koveya for sukkah is achilas aray. So that's, yes, please?
It's funny that in truth that we say it doesn't need a bracha, we have less than shear, it doesn't need a bracha achrayna. The bracha rishayna, you need a bracha.
Yes, yes. You say amotzi. Yes, yes, yes. You say amotzi. Yeah, you say amotzi. But berachas hamazon, you don't say less than a kazayas. Okay, that's the halach lemaisa. A sukkah, that's the chazar over again. The halach lemaisa, that sukkah, you're allowed to eat a volume of an egg of bread out of the sukkah, but more than a kibetza eat in the sukkah. As far as berachas hamazon, a kazayas, you have to say berachas hamazon, and of course, even less than a kazayas, you have to say amotzi. But berachas hamazon is only for a kazayas. Once it's a kazayas, you say berachas hamazon. As far as the tilos adayim, so there's a suffix between a kazayas and a kibetza. If it's more than a kazayas, once it's a kazayas, some say you have to do it until tilos but some say not until a kibetza, like Agamar says. And therefore, between a kazayas and a kibetza, do wash, but without a bracha on tilos adayim. Once you have a kibetza, so then you even say on tilos adayim. Less than a kazayas, you don't even have to wash at all. So if you want to take half a volume of an olive of bread, you just say hamotzi and you eat it, and there's no washing and no bracha.
All those examples of, let's say, between kazayas and kibetz, and you're not eating the samura, you bench it, you're not eating the samura, so you're not mekayim.
If you ate a kazayas. So Chaim Dov is pointing out that this whole sugya about the kazayas, kibetz is only with Rabbanan, but the rice only chayiv kedei svia, v'chalta v'sabata, you only chayiv on the Torah level, you only chayiv if you ate and to satisfaction. But with Rabbanan, you chayiv even if you eat a kazayas. That's why Hashem says that He's going to favor Am Yisrael. The Choneka, Hashem is going to favor Am Yisrael because then with Dachkin Alatzman, Yisa Hashem, Hashem was not saying Am Yisrael because they are machmir on themselves more than they have to. So I'm also going to go beyond the law. They deserve.
I get that straight because I've learned it for years and I didn't quite get it. Meaning that they eat before severe and yet they bench.
Yes, yes. Now, if you eat a kazayas, you have to say berachas hamazon.
Then of course it's a commandment. That they go beyond that. They say
even the kazayas,
the
minimum amount of eating kazayas, we say berachas hamazon.
Okay, I never really quite got it now.
Okay, next Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer Omer. Arba Esrei Sudas Chayav Adam Lachal B'Sukkah Achas B'Yom B'Achas B'Layla. Rabbi Lezer says that all the 7 days of Sukkot you mechuyev to eat in the Sukkah twice a day. 14 Sudas altogether, 7 days of Sukkot. Each day you eat 2 meals, one of the day, one of the night. And the Gemara is going to say what his source is. We don't pass like that. We pass like the Chachamim. Ain't no double kitzvah. There's no set amount. You can do whatever you want. If you don't want to eat, you don't have to eat. Or as we said, you pass allowed to eat peiros as much as you want, and even tagima, which we said in the Maseches Yoma about cheese and fish and these things. Also not simple. We're machmir to eat in the sukkah, but you don't have to. If someone wants to eat not bread and eat small amounts at the whole time, achilas aray, you may do it out of the sukkah. When you want to eat, you want to eat. If you eat, you have to eat in the sukkah, but you don't have to eat. But unless it says you must eat twice a day. Just the first night of Sukkot. Over there, the Rabbanan also say mechuyev to eat in the sukkah. The first night of Sukkot, you have to eat in the sukkah. The rest of the Sukkot, you don't have to. It means, of course, you're not allowed to eat out of the sukkah, chilos keva. But you don't have to eat. If you don't want to eat, you don't have to eat. Same on Pesach. The first night of Pesach, you have to eat matzah. The rest of Pesach, you don't have to eat matzah if you want to. So you're not allowed to eat chametz. So eat potatoes, eat matzah, but you don't have to eat matzah. The first night of Pesach, you must eat matzah. Here, the Gemara says the first night of Sukkot, you must eat in the sukkah. That's one Mishnah, and we pass like the Rabbanan. The Mishnah continues. Another thing Rabbi Lezer said. Thank you very much. Now Rabbi Lezer seems to be talking the terminology of the Rabbanan. If you missed the first night, you missed the first night. You didn't eat in the sukkah the first night of Sukkot. You could make up for it on the night of Shmini Atzeres. So the Gemara is going to say how you make it up. But if you missed the first night, of course you'd be allowed to make it up during Yom Tov also. But he says that during Sukkot, he says the Chiddush, you're even allowed to make it up on Shmini Atzeres. The Gemara talks about by Karbonos. If someone didn't bring the Karbonos, he's supposed to the Olas Riyah, Shalmi Chagiga. So you're allowed to be Tashlumin. You're allowed to bring it up. The Yom Tov Shmini Atzeres is considered an extension of Sukkot, even though it's a separate Yom Tov. The Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres, but it's considered an extension, and therefore you could do Tashlumin. You could do the makeup. So it's just like Karbonos. He says also, as far as the meal, you're supposed to have a meal the first night of Yom Tov. If you didn't do it, you can make it up the rest of Sukkot and even on Shmini Atzeres. Oh, so Moshe is pointing out that you don't eat in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. So it comes out a fascinating thing that the meal of the first night of Sukkot you're going to eat out of the sukkah. How could that be? The Gemara has the problem, or the Gemara is not going to have the problem, but we'll get to it. But that's a very nice point. Rashi points it out that in Shmini Atzeres there's no mitzvah of sukkahs. People are sometimes confused because in Chutz La'aretz you do it in the sukkah Shmini Atzeres because maybe it's still sukkahs. But Shmini Atzeres there's no mitzvah of sukkahs. But sukkah stage for Shavas Yomim, and then this says B'yom Shmini Atzeres Yalachem. There's another yontif which comes right after. There's no mitzvah of sukkah like in Eretz Yisrael, 7 days of sukkahs, and then they Shmini Atzeres, and you don't eat in the sukkah. So now you're going to be eating a meal on Shmini Atzeres to make up for the meal of sukkahs. What's that all about? So we'll get to that soon. But the Chachamim argue and they say no such thing. The Chachamim there's no way to make it up. Not only Shmini Atzeres, there's no way to make it up at all. Even during Sukkot you can't make it up. It's a mitzvah to eat the first night in the Sukkah. If you missed it, you missed it. This, concerning this or something similar, it says, Muvas lo yichal litkon, v'chesron lo yichal limanos. This is a pasuk in Koheles, and it says sometimes there's a corruption, muvas, a corruption which cannot be rectified, and there's a lack, a deficiency that cannot be counted in. Sometimes you miss something and it's too late. Sometimes you can rectify. Sometimes you do it. There's a mistake that you can't rectify anymore. This is one of them. If you missed the first night of Sukkot, so you can't make it up. So we go back to the beginning of the Mishnah.
Even if it's Shigada, or-
Yeah, you missed it. You missed it.
Why is it called Mova?
It's a corruption. It's a bad thing. He made a mistake. He made a mistake, but he can't make it up.
Yeah, it's not really. Oh, that's a different. That's
When
that's,
Yeah.
It's a different.
he also missed it. It's too late. So it's not his fault, but it's not. It doesn't.
Only Mova. Okay, I'm just.
Anything that you can't make up, the Gemara calls this kind of thing. Well, it's a problem they can't fix up. Some problems you can fix up. Some problems you can't fix up. My Talmud Rabbi Elazar said Mishnah had 2 points. The first point of the Mishnah was how many times you have to eat in the sukkah. Rabbi Elazar said 14 meals means twice a day during the 7 days of sukkahs. Where does he get it from? My Talmud Rabbi Elazar, where does he get it from? The answer is Teishvu. It says in the pasuk by sukkah Teishvu Shavas Yomim. Teishvu came to do. Live in the sukkah the way you live in your house. Till now, you always use this as a leniency that you don't have to do more than you did. But here, saying it's also a stringency. You have to live in the house, in the sukkah the way you live in your house. How do you live in your house? Normal people they have 2 meals a day. My baby nowadays people have breakfast. Okay, some people don't. But the normal thing is to have 2 meals a day. So therefore, in the sukkah also you have to have 2 meals a day because the sukkah is teishvu. Teishvu came to do. But Rabbanan say no. We also well teishvu came to do. Rabbanan there's no chiyuv to eat twice a day every day. You want to eat. You don't eat. You don't eat. Kedira. They also say kedira. Just like the whole year round in your house. If you want to eat, if you don't want, you don't want to. Nothing's forcing you to eat. So too in the sukkah. If you want to, you do eat. If you don't want to, you don't have to. So the Rabbanan say there's no chiyuv to eat 14 meals a day, 14 meals in sukkah. If you want to eat, you eat. So where did they get that the first night? You are mechuyev because the Mishnah says that even according to Rabbanan that you're not mechuyev, but the first night they agree that you are. Where did they get that from? Where did they get that the first night you do have to eat in the sukkah? There's a Gzeir Shavah. Gzeir Shavah means if you have a similar word that it says 2 places in the Torah, so there's a link between them and we learn out one from the other. And it says that Sukkot is the 15th day of Tishrei and Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan, so we make a Gzeir Shavah link between the 2 times where it says the 15th. Just like for Pesach, there's only obligation to eat matzah the first night, so too there's an obligation to eat in Sukkot, eat the first night. But the rest of the Sukkot is just like Pesach. There's no mitzvah to eat, no chiyuv to eat matzah the rest of Pesach, so there's no chiyuv to eat in Sukkot the rest of it. How do you know Pesach the first night you're mechayiv to eat in matzah? And how do you know by matzah that you're mechayiv to eat the first night? Besides the pasuk where it says al matzos amram yachlu, it also says b'erev tachlu matzos. That means because of kol v'chol, the pasuk fixes it to be considered an obligation. You must eat matzah the first night of Pesach. That's the end of the sugya. That everybody agrees that the first night you have to eat because you learn out from Pesach. Tesvav from Chag HaMatzos. And Rabbi Elazar held that you have to eat every day 2 meals because Teishvu came to do. That's the normal way people live during the year, so they have to do the same thing during Sukkot. And Rabbi Elazar doesn't mean that. It means just live however you want to. People don't have to eat. Never have to eat. If you want to eat, if you don't have to, you don't have to. That's the way we pass like Rabbanan that there's no chiyuv to eat every day 2 meals. The Mishnah Berurah does bring down that it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have like Sudas Yontif, but it's not what the Mishnah means over here. Teishvu came to do. No, but it is a nice thing. You don't say Ya'alav Yovo. You don't go back for Berachas Hamazon if you didn't say Ya'alav Yovo. There's no chiyuv to eat on Yom Tov. You do eat 2 meals on Yom Tov meals, Shabbos meals, 3 meals. But beside the sukkah, there's no special chiyuv to eat because of the sukkah.
Rebbe, the Gra and the Chizkuni bring over here, like the Gra and Pesachim, that Rishus means mitzvah kiyumis. You do get a mitzvah kiyumis when you choose to eat.
Okay. Yashikoah. V'odam Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar continued in the mission, said a second thing, and that was that you could have tashlumin. If you missed the first night, you can make it up even last night, even Shmini Atzeres, not even Sukkot anymore. Surely you can make it up during Sukkot. I'm adding that on myself, but you could even be Yotzei on the night of Shmini Atzeres to eat for the first night. So the Gemara doesn't make sense out of this. We could emphasize the word besukah. You have to eat in the sukkah 14 meals. So this was what Moshe said before, that in Shmini Atzeres you're not eating in the sukkah. So how could you be Yotzei eating the meal of the sukkah out of the sukkah? Just to strengthen the kasha a little bit, besides the fact that he said besukah, before the Gemara said the whole source is because it says besukah station. How does he know he's supposed to eat 14 meals? Because it says besukah station. And Teshuvah came to do it. So now you can eat out of the sukkah. The whole chiv is a chiv in the sukkah. Also, the point the Mishnah says that it says here that there are 14 meals. So now he talks about 1 meal. Another kasha the Gemara might mean is that it says before that you have to eat 14 meals. And now it says you can be Yotzei, if you didn't eat the first night, you can be Yotzei on Shmini Atzeres. This Rashi doesn't say, but I think it's also a good kasha that Rabbi Elazar is just talking about the first meal that you missed. You can make tashlumin, but there's no difference the first meal according to Rabbi Elazar. There are 14 meals. There's nothing special about the first night. Here he's only talking about the first night. The more answers, Omar Bira, that's the name, somebody's name, Bira. Omar Abami, Chazal Bar Rabbi Elazar, that he retracted. He retracted. The first mission is over. First he said you need 14 sudas, but he retracted and he said I'm wrong. And it means that the Rabbana, there's no chiyuv to eat 14 meals. So the first part of the mission is off. You could delete it. The first part of the mission, Rabbi Elazar used to hold that you have to have 14 meals on Sukkot, but he retracted. He said no, Teshuvah came to do it the way Rabbanan say, if you want to eat, if you don't want to, you don't have to eat, and you don't have to eat. But he does agree to them the first night you have to eat. And now, can you make it up? Is there makeup? And Rabbi Elazar says there is a makeup, even on Shmini Atzeres, Rabbanan say no makeup. So that's a new way of learning the Mishnah. It's interesting right after V'od on Rabbi Elazar, but this V'od is after he retracted from the first halacha. So
extra sira against the idea, because we take leave of the sukkah before Shmini Atzeres.
of course,
we leave it officially. We say we no longer.
there's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah of sukkah on Shmini Atzeres. There's no mitzvah of
We
sukkah.
took leave of it.
There's sukkah stage. There's no thing doesn't make a difference if you leave it out. But sukkah stage, the mitzvah is 7 days. That's all. And no one's eating on Shmini Atzeres. You don't eat in the sukkah Shmini Atzeres. Rashi even says this. Baltosef, if you eat in the sukkah for the mitzvah of sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, it's an averi. You're not supposed to add on to the mitzvahs. So eating in the house. So how could you be Yotzei the meal of sukkahs? So the 14 meals of sukkahs. So he's not being Yotzei the 14 meals of sukkahs. But sukkah stage was all. He only holds you eating the first meal. But it still comes out a very big chiddush that the first meal is tesvav. So he agrees to Rabbanan that only the first night you have to eat because of the Gzera Shava from matzah. And now, but that he does say you can make tashlumin and Shmini Atzeres. That part the Gemara is not bothered about. That the chiyuv of the first night eat in the sukkah, if you missed it, Rabbi Elazar says you could make it up on Shmini Atzeres out of the sukkah. That comes out. Just to point out the essence of what he's saying, that the din to eat the first night is not a din in the sukkah. If it be a din in the sukkah, then it'd be the same kasha. Then how could you be Yotzei in Shmini Atzeres, the meal of the first night, which is a din in the sukkah? It's not a din in the sukkah. It's a din in the yantif. Rabbi Elazar holds that the first night you're eating in the meal in the sukkah, of course you have to eat in the sukkah because on sukkah you have to eat in the sukkah. But it's not inherently a mitzvah of the sukkah. It's a mitzvah of the yantif. You have to have, and if you miss that yantif night, the first meal, you can do it Shmini Atzeres. So Rabbanan says there's no tashlumin. Not because it's missing the sukkah, because even on the second day of sukkahs, you can't do tashlumin. The Rabbanan says there's no tashlumin at all. So according to Rabbi Elazar, the din of eating the first night is a din of yantif. It's not a din of the sukkah b'chlal. And the Rabbanan says it's not tashlumin. It could be they also agree that it's a din in the yantif. It's not a sukkah din. It just to point out there's a machlokes achronim or rishonim. What if it's raining the first night? I think everybody knows this halacha, that if it rains the first night, what do? Usually it rains during sukkahs, so it's mitzvah, and you don't eat it in the sukkah. It's not a sukkah which is comfortable. The same
in
way.
your house. And then you Yotzei Yom Suda.
What's the purpose? What's the purpose of eating in the house? If it's
because you can't eat it in the sukkah.
yes, what I'm saying. That's what I want pointing out. So don't eat if you don't want. Are you mechuyev to eat?
I mean, there's still mitzvah of eating.
Which mitzvah is that? Here the Gemara says maybe Tesvav. It could be a regular Yom Tov Suda like Shavuos, Shabbos. You could say there's a din to eat a Suda, but it could be that this din of Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says the din of the first night is Tesvav Mechag Matzos. It's the Raisa to eat the first night, and Rabbanan might agree to that. The rest is not Tashlumin. Also, they talk about that the mitzvah that some say he's supposed to eat in the rain. We heard people know this that. Some hold that the first night, even if it's raining, you're supposed to eat in the sukkah, at least the kazai, sukkah beitza, and then you can go to it. So why is that? Because they hold that the first night it is a din in the sukkah, and therefore do it in the sukkah. But it's interesting that the first night, this Gemara of Elazar for sure says it's a din in the yontif, it's not a din in the sukkah b'chlal. The Rabbanan say there's no tashlumin. They also might agree it's a din in the yontif, it's not a din in the sukkah. Maybe that's a din in the sukkah, but they hold there's no tashlumin either.
People wait till 4 o'clock in the morning.
I think that the Shabbat says to wait until a little bit. He says that to wait too much, it might be Simchas Yontif, people want to eat. So he says, I forgot if he says till Chatzos. I don't think he says till Chatzos. I think he says.
An hour. There is an eitzah to start eating. It's my father did one year. The start was raining, so he ate, and then at the end of the meal, it calmed down. And then he went. Then he ate up. So then he went.
They mean that even if you want to be machmer to wait, you don't have to wait to eat in the sukkah. You can eat in the house and then eat later on in the sukkah.
That's what you said, right?
Hmm?
That's what you just said.
As my father did. I didn't ask him the source. I could ask him. I'll call him today.
Why does the Mishnah not say that?
How does it come?
He's saying to first eat in the house and then eat
No,
later.
he waited an hour or so.
Ah, he
and then
did wait.
He did wait an hour or so,
Uh-huh.
which wasn't
Okay.
calming down. So
But he's saying-
dessert,
but that might be a question that if there's an eitzah, so why not start eating in the house and then make sure that by the end of the meal that he should eat a kazayis at least in the sukkah. What's the difference if he does the first kazayis or
But
okay?
if you could even ask a different strategy.
Mm.
Go to sleep, wake up a little before that. Before,
That's saying not supposed to sleep before you do the mitzvah. You have a chiyuv, you're not supposed to go to sleep. You might miss it. You
Ah,
might not
You're
get up.
hungry also. I mean, the
Right.
rabbis is worked all day, is waiting
Okay.
for a meal now.
So that's the end of the
Once
Gemara.
you sleep, there's nothing
So
to eat.
just to sum up the halacha so far, we hold that in Amluchayiv to eat 14 sudas, and even Rabbi Lezer himself, he tracked it. He holds in also Amluchayiv only Mechayiv to eat the first night, and Rabbi Lezer holds that is din of tashlumin, and even out of the sukkah because it's not a din of sukkah b'chlal. Rabbanan say there's no tashlumin even during sukkahs. No tashlumin. The mitzvah to eat first night. There's vav michag hamatzos, and there's no tashlumin if you missed it.
That's another subject, but it seems to have a similar correlation with a mitzvah shachris. Okay, I don't know.
No, shachris there is tashlumin.
I'm saying you daven mincha. It's not.
That's
so
called-
what
that's
are you doing
called-
with davening
that's-
shachris mincha? What
that's
are you doing
called
davening
tashlumin.
ma'ariv,
That's
the
called
mincha at
that's
night?
called tashlumin. Over there, you don't say mubs
So why does it work?
Over there, you don't say mubs. There is such a thing as tashlumin sometimes. Here, there's no
Why does it
tashlumin.
work here?
No, two different subjects. No. Kriya Shema, for instance, the Gemara says Kriya Shema, there's no tashlumin. If you miss Kriya Shema, there's no tashlumin. For Shema Nesrei, there is tashlumin.
So
For
certain things happen, others don't.
yeah. So here's machlokes. If there's tashlumin for the first night of Sukkot, Rabbi Lezer says yes. We pass like the one. There's no tashlumin. Even the next day, you can't eat on the next day to make up for last night. You missed it. The Gemara continues. Mashlum b'mai. This is going in Rabbi Lezer. We don't pass like this, but Rabbi Lezer says there is tashlumin. So we're just interested in Rabbi Lezer, even though we don't pass like him. According to Rabbi Lezer, says you can do tashlumin. You can make a makeup on Shmini Atzeres. How do you make up? Elam b'berifta. You're just going to eat bread on the night of Shmini Atzeres. Suda the Yom Kachel. That's the regular Shmini Atzeres meal. That means that's not tashlumin. You have a chiyuv mitzat Shmini Atzeres also to eat the night of Shmini Atzeres. So that's because you're eating a meal Shmini Atzeres by night. Of course, in your house, that doesn't make tashlumin for Sukkot because you only made one meal. One meal is the meal for Shmini Atzeres. So surely the Gemara could have said that you could eat another suda. You eat two sudas. The night of Shmini Atzeres, eat two meals, and one is for Shmini Atzeres, one is for makeup for the first night of Sukkot. The Gemara could have said that. The Gemara is saying a chiddush, you don't have to. You can make a makeup even without having mina tagima. Mina tagima means some kind of tosefet, some kind of a additional meal. Rashi talks about an appetizer. So if you're going to take extra kugel, you make an extra piece of meat, something that you make that's going to be a tosefet or an extra piece of cake, whatever it's going to be, that's going to be in addition to what you usually eat on the night of Shmini Atzeres. So that's going to be for the mitzvah sukkah. So Rashi says, if you want to make a whole new suda, that's surely good. But even if you don't make a whole new suda, that's also could be a tashlum in the contract of Lezer by eating something extra on Shmini Atzeres for the first night of Sukkot. But again, passing like him, be passing, there's no tashlum. If you missed it, you missed it. There's no tashlum. Tanya, in the middle of the Brisa spoke about Tagimo. That's the point of Elazar, but now the Gemara goes further. A different point. Sha'al apotropos shall agripas amelach es Rabbi Elazar. Rashi says apotropos means like the manager of the palace. he asked of the Agrippas HaMelech. He was Jewish. I mean, Petropoulos was surely Jewish. Agrippas, the Gemara talks about if he was Jewish or not. Achinuat over there, he what was the Kosoi of Agrippas? That he was not Jewish. And Achinuat, but this Petropoulos was surely Jewish. And he asked Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is the one again that originally held you have to have 14 sudas. He himself retracted, but this Brisa seems to be going before he retracted, and he held that you do have to eat 14 sudas during Sukkot, 2 a day. So he asked Rabbi Elazar, I usually eat one day, one meal a day. Everybody, most people eat 2 meals a day. So you say that they have to eat Teshuvah came to do it, they should eat 2 meals on Sukkot. I usually don't eat, I eat 1 meal a day. So it's good enough for me to eat 1 meal a day on Sukkot. I'm alone. He told him, Rabbi Elazar told him, every day you always get all kinds of good foods for your own honor. Today you're not going to get one kind of good food for your honor of your maker. So I would have thought that the Gemara means that eat something extra. Like the Gemara Dashvin is saying that if you have tagima, something extra is good enough. So Rabbi Elazar himself is saying that the 14 meals doesn't have to be actual meal. The same way Sat Tashlumin could be something extra. So maybe the 14 meals also could be something extra that you usually don't eat. Rashi seems to say not like that. Rashi says that eat some kind of appetizer in order to be able to eat. Usually only 1 meal and you're satisfied. So you take appetizers sometimes. Something that opens up gets you an appetite. So eat an appetizer in order to get a ability to be able to eat another meal. I think that's what Rashi means. Not like I said that it just means to eat something extra. Rashi says that here is a Rashi Papiros. Rashi explains what appetizer is. That eat something that will give you an appetite. So here also eat some pickles, whatever, something that will give you an appetite, and then you should be able to eat a meal. What? 2 meals. Right. So not just to add on something, even though that might have been good enough, but he says eat a meal. The Gemara only says Tashlumin. If the Tashlumin, he says that is good enough. But for 14 meals, maybe you have to eat a full meal. So we don't pass like this. Even Rabbi Elazar himself also backed down and says that you don't have to have 2 meals a day, whatever you want to. The Rishavu again does bring down, even Cholamoid, it says it's a good thing to eat 2 meals a day, but you don't have to. The Gemara continues. Once it brings down the Brisa, also it's going to be about this Apotropos, this manager of the Apotropos of Agrippas, and also has to do with Hilchos also. The Od Shala. Where is it? Top line over here. The Od Shala. I have 2 wives. One of my wives lives in Tveria, one is in Tzipori, and he goes back and forth. And he wants to also on Sukkot to be by both of them. Can I go during Sukkot? First I'll be in Tveria, then I'll be in Tzipori. You have 2 Sukkot. Is that good enough? I'm a little low. So Rabbi says no, you may not. We're going to pass him not like this, but Rabbi says no, you may not. You must be in the same sukkah for 7 days. We had mentioned this once upon a time on Daf Tes. Shani Yomer, Kol Yosim Sukkah Sukkah Bittul Mitzvah Shalishona. If you leave the sukkah during Sukkot, so you lose out even when you did it already. Rashi points out that not only don't you get reward the mitzvah for the following days in the second sukkah, even the first sukkah you lose out because it's only a sukkah if it's a 7-day sukkah. If you didn't stay in the sukkah for 7 days, you're not able to the mitzvah. And the Gemara is soon going to say what the source is. Tanya Rabbi Omer. Next page. Tanya Rabbi Elazar Omer and Yosim Yisukah L'Sukkah. Rabbi Elazar himself, this is Rabbi Elazar says, don't leave from one sukkah to another sukkah. If you go from one sukkah to another sukkah, you missed out. They know sukkah b'chol shamoid. Also, if you didn't make sukkah the first day, for some reason you had no sukkah, you can't make a sukkah chol anymore. Not because you're not allowed to make a sukkah chol, but because it's not a 7-day sukkah. You must have a 7-day sukkah. But you missed out the first day, so it's not. You don't.
Still exists.
But he's not answering what to do about his 2 wives.
He said no. He told him. He said no. Do not low. Decide which wife you're going to be by, or bring them all together, and it should be one family on Sukkot, because you can't eat you have to eat in the same sukkah the whole 7 days. What was the problem, Chaim David?
What did I just say?
If you miss the first day, you miss your sukkah.
Yeah, no, it's not. You said because it's a 7-day sukkah. Correct, it's 7-day sukkah. My family's eating in the
No.
sukkah
So it
7
seems
days.
not
I'm
here.
there,
It seems
I'm
no.
somewhere
It
else.
seems he has to be in the same sukkah for 7 days.
Rebbe, with 2 wives together, there's no way you'll be Mekayim b'samachta b'chagecha.
Okay, so then he has to decide which one, and the other one will be the next yantif.
The next year.
The Chachamim say Yotzim b'sukkah l'sukkah versus sukkah b'chol shemad. The Rabbanan argue, we pass like the Rabbanan that you could go from one sukkah to the other sukkah. That's not a problem. You don't have to be a 7-day sukkah. And also, if you didn't have the first day, you can make a sukkah to Kol Shemoy, and you're allowed to be out to the rest of the days. You don't look at it like that. The Shavin, everybody agrees. Because even Rabbi Lezer, that's machmir, you have to have a 7-day sukkah. You also agree, Shem Nafla Shechozer Ubona B'Chol Shemoy. As soon as the Gemara says Ubona Osa, you can rebuild it. If it fell down, you can rebuild it. It's called the same sukkah. It seems you have to rebuild the same sukkah. Not that you can build another sukkah. It fell down, rebuild it. And that's called the same sukkah. That's the end of the brisa. My time, Rebbe Lezer. Where's Rebbe Lezer get that you have to have a 7-day sukkah? On my Krua, the pasuk says, it says make the holiday of sukkah for 7 days. And he dashes make a 7-day sukkah. I say sukkah l'shiva. Something out the word aruya. I say sukkah l'shiva. Make a 7-day sukkah. We had the sukkah agav. We had the word ruya a couple of pages ago. We spoke about the sukkah that you're not allowed to climb into on Yom Tov. It's in a treehouse on a camel. So over there, some hold that it's not called sukkah. It has to be roy l'shiva. And now we do paskin like you have to have roy l'shiva. Over there we say that it's roy l'shiva because with the rice it's kosher to go up, but you do have to have a sukkah roy l'shiva. But here the Gemara doesn't mean that. Here the Gemara means sukkah l'shiva. Rabbi Lezer also you have to have a 7-day sukkah. Now we don't paskin like. Rabbanan, how do they learn the pasuk? It says you have to have 7-day sukkah. No, Rabbanan nachi kama Rahman. Hashem said like this. I say sukkah b'chag. Make a sukkah during the 7 days. Any day of sukkah, make a sukkah. On the contrary, the same pasuk can be dashed in both ways. Either you learn the pasuk means make a 7-day sukkah, or it means during the 7 days of sukkah, make a sukkah. Any day, a 1-day sukkah, a 2-day sukkah, a 3-day sukkah. Every day you can make a sukkah. So that we pass like the Rabbanan that there's no din to have a 7-day sukkah, and therefore you could leave sukkah to another sukkah, and you also could make a sukkah in Chol Hamoed if you didn't have the first day. The Bryce ended off before the Shavin Shem Nafla Shechozer Bon Osa. Here says the word Osa. That's this word they didn't have before. But I think it's what I meant before also. Everybody agrees even Rabbi Lezer that if the sukkah fell down, which you did start in the beginning of sukkahs, you could rebuild it. Here it says rebuild it. Pshita, of course, it's the same sukkah. Ma'aratema, you don't look at it as the same sukkah. Maybe if it fell down and you rebuilt it, it's not considered the same sukkah anymore. And this one is not a 7-day sukkah. Kamash Malan, it's a continuation of the first sukkah and it's good. But again, with a pass like that, we pass him that you don't have to have a 7-day sukkah, everything is good. The Gemara brings in a new issue now. Also Rabbi Lezer. Different issue. Tanya, Belaz Omer, Kishem Shein Radam Yossi Yedech Chavasa V'Yom Tov Rishon Shal Chag V'Lo Lova Shal Chaveira. T'chsev L'Lachtem Lachem. Lachem means it has to belong to you. L'Lachtem Lachem V'Yom Rishon Tzadok Karos Morim Mishal Lachem. That since it says Lachem, it means that it has to belong to you. And if we can't be Yossi with somebody else's Esrog Belulav on the first day of Sukkot, so everybody knows that the first day has to be your own. And if you do take somebody else's Sukkot, the Gemara is going to say it's later on that is an Eitzah that he should give it to you as a present and you give it back to him, but it has to be yours. So just like by Lulav, you're not Yotze if it's not your Lulav. You can't be Yotze in somebody else's Sukkah. You have to have your own Sukkah. You can't go borrow Sukkah. You can't visit anybody. Nobody. Everybody's home in his own Sukkah for 7 days. You can't even change 2 sukkahs, and you can't even go to somebody else's sukkah. Just like before it says lachem, here it says lacha. Same way over there, everybody agrees that lachem means it has to be your sukkah, your lulav and esrog. So do it has to be your sukkah. That's lacha shivashem and mishalcha. The chachamim argue, say no, you don't have to. And that's how we pass it, that you don't have to have your own sukkah. You can have a borrowed sukkah. You could go visit people. The chachamim by lulav, we agree, but by sukkah not. Even though it's true that Chazal say the earlier Chachamim that you're not Yotze in somebody else's lulav on the first day. Now the question was, it says Lacha. Why not say that has to belong to you? No, there's not a pasuk over here. Everybody, all the citizens of Am Yisrael should sit in Sukkos. Here they point out the word Sukkos is written without a bow, that it can be written Sukkas. So as if the drasha would be that everybody could be Yotze in one sukkah. Rashi says that if you have one sukkah, it's possible theoretically everybody should be also with one sukkah. How could that be? Either it's a very big sukkah, or it's going to be taking turns. One person goes in, and then the next person goes in. How could it be everybody's also in one sukkah? Rashi points out that it's not going to be worth a shabbat pruta for each person. If you have to own the sukkah, Rashi's mashma, if you have a sukkah shal shutfin, it would be good. But you can't have a sukkah shal shutfin because there's not enough value in the sukkah to be divided amongst the whole Am Yisrael. If you have millions of people of Am Yisrael, how could they all be also in one sukkah? A sukkah is not going to be millions of prutas. So it must be that you could be also in a borrowed sukkah. This pasuk teaches that everybody can sit in one sukkah, which means that is borrowed. It doesn't have to belong to you. And that's what we pass. You don't have to own the sukkah, it could be a borrowed sukkah. But the question is, what do I do with the word lecha? Before I said lecha, which is mashma, that does have to belong to you. What I can do with the word lecha, which is mashma, has to belong to you. They do agree that a stolen sukkah is not good. A stolen sukkah isn't yours. But it doesn't have to be so much yours that if it's borrowed, because you have that pasuk that says, but the pasuk does say to teach us that a borrowed sukkah is good. Rabbi Elazar said that borrowed sukkah is not good. Honestly, dash in the pasuk Kol Esrach. A second ago, we said that Kol Esrach B'Yisrael is mashma. Is the one drasha would be that everybody could be in one sukkah, which means that it doesn't belong to him. It's borrowed. Rabbi Elazar doesn't know that. Why does he do that pasuk? Now, Avidlei, Yiboidlei, V'geshin is guy, being time, because it says God will be in time. He used that pasuk for a different drasha to say that even though I say you have to have a 7-day sukkah, before we said that you can't change sukkahs in the middle, and also if you didn't make a sukkah the first day, it's too late. You can make a sukkah Chol Hamoed because you don't have a 7-day sukkah. How about if somebody converted during sukkahs? During Chol Hamoed, so he doesn't have a 7-day sukkah, or if there was a boy who grew up, he became bar mitzvah during sukkahs, his birthday is Chol Hamoed, so you're going to say he has no sukkah because he doesn't have the 7-day sukkah. For that, the person comes to say everybody should stand in the sukkah, Kol Ezrach, even the people who converted during sukkahs, even the people who grew up during sukkahs. That I agree that they do have to have a sukkah for the rest of the sukkahs. For Rabbanan, how come the Rabbanan know this halacha that somebody converted or grew up during sukkahs that he has a sukkah for the rest of the sukkahs? To them, it's not a chiddush. Why should he not be chayiv? According to Rabbi Elazar, says you have to have a 7-day sukkah. So here, the convert or the boy you grew up, he doesn't have a 7-day sukkah. So you have to have a chiddush to say that yes, it's good enough. You should be yotzei in the sukkah that you have for the rest of the days that you are already Jewish or that you're already an adult. But according to Rabbanan, there's no such halacha in the first place. You don't need a 7-day sukkah. So of course, the boy who grows up during sukkahs, during Chol Hamoed, or somebody that became a gersh, only is chayiv in sukkah. That's not even a chiddush. So it comes out machlokas if you could be yotzei in a borrowed sukkah. We pass like Rabbanan. Yes, you could. One more story, a new sugya, which we're going to see does not have to do. Let's see, maybe 2 more stories. Tana Rabbanan, Ma'aseh Rabbi Eloi, might have been the father of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eloi, Shalach Lakuf Bnei Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Balud. The Rebbe of Rabbi Eloi was Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Elazar lived in Lod. So he came to visit him Beregel. He came to visit him, and the Rebbe said to the Talmud, he shouldn't have come. You're not of those who are resting or stopping during the regel. It means the Gemara is going to say right away that it's not good to go away from your home. You're supposed to be home with your wife during the regel. Blessed said, I praise the lazy people. So Rashi points out, even though they're lazy, the reason why they're not going is because they're lazy, not because they're grace of tzaddikim. But they're lazy. They don't go traveling. But it's good because they gain on the mitzvah of sukkah, of simchas hachag. The simchas hachag is supposed to be done together with your family, and it brings a pasuk which is not talking about sukkah. So it's a pasuk that it says by Ma'aseh Sheni, I think. But we're learning out. Whenever it says simcha, it means you and your family. So therefore, if someone's going to go to be Mekabel Pnei Rabo, so he's staying away from his wife. So I'd rather don't come. Don't come to visit the Rebbe. Stay by your wife. And therefore, even though Rabbi Eloi came to visit his Rebbe, the Rebbe said, Rabbi Elazar said he shouldn't have come. The Marsakashi, you are supposed to be Mekabel Pnei Rabo B'Regel. Hey, is that so? You are supposed to be Makbil. The word Makbil, they say Makbil doesn't mean to receive. It means more like a bill. Means when a person is face to face with somebody, it's called to be parallel with somebody, to be face to face. They saw like a reception. They call it a reception, but they really hakbalas panim. That means not kabbalas panim. It's really hakbalas panim. I'm not sure. I think that the word doesn't mean to receive. It means more to be one opposite the other. But the point is that a person should go to see his Rebbe during the regel. It says when the Shunem was the woman that Elisha had prayed for her to have a son, and she had a son. Then later on, the son died, and she went to go to Elisha to say that the son died. So she didn't tell her husband what happened. She just said, "I need a donkey with one of the servants," and he was surprised. Where are you going? It's not Rosh Chodesh and it's not Shabbos. Why are you going to the Navi? So from there we could derive that it was normal to go to the Navi on Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos. So you see that on Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos, you are supposed to go to the river. So, and Yontif also, the more is throwing in, surely Yontif, because Chodesh and Shabbos are surely Yontif. So the question is, how could you say that you're not supposed to be Makbul Pnei Rabbo? Here it says you are supposed to be Makbul Pnei Rabbo. Are you supposed to stay home with your wife? Are you supposed to go to the Rebbe? If he could get back the same day and be home with his wife, so he went during the day, he went out to go see his Rebbe, he came back. But if he's going to have to stay overnight, then he should not go. Then it's better to stay home. The poskim, the Rambam doesn't pass them like this, and they talk about what the source is. Somebody mentioned the possibility might be that the Gemara said before by Rav Chisda and Rabbi Bar Huna that they slept on the rocks of the Nara. They slept outside because they were shluchim mitzvah going to see the Reish Galusa, and they stayed overnight outside, but by the riverbed. So that's mashma that it doesn't hold like this. That might be a source for the Rambam who doesn't pass like this, that it's mitzvah, maybe it is a mitzvah, Lakul Pnei Rabbo, even if he's going to miss out being that night with his wife. Rashi's very interesting. Rashi here a couple of times says that this whole story happened on the first day of Yom Tov. And I'm not sure why Rashi says that. The simple pshat in Rashi would sound like the mitzvah of Hakul Pnei Rabba was bigger on the first day of Yom Tov, not Chol HaMoed. Rashi goes out of his way a couple of times in this sugya to say that it's talking about the first day of Yom Tov, and I don't know why Rashi says that. It seems that Rashi says the Mikra mitzvah is to go b'regel, not b'chol HaMoed. The Mikra mitzvah is to be makbid. If you could go back, according to this Gemara Dafka, if you could go back and forth, it's within a day's travel, or with a tchum, but with an erev tchumen. But if you don't pass like this, then even if you're gonna stay away from home, like maybe Rav and Rabbi Bar Huna. But without Rashi, I would have thought that it has to do with Chol HaMoed, not after the first day. I don't know if the post can talk about this. Is the Ikar mitzvah of Hakul Pnei Rabba, is it only on the first day of Yom Tov or even subsequently? The post can also, yes, please.
Talk about if Rebbe is dead.
There's no Pnei Rabba if his Rebbe is dead. Some people do that? Okay, I'm not familiar.
The Uman people, they don't do it. Rebbe is dead.
The post can also talk about, I think it's another Yehuda, they talk about that maybe there's no din, not mechuyev to be makbid Pnei Rabba when there's no Beis HaMikdash. When there's no Oler Regel, I think he says also there's no din, that not mechuyev to be makbid Pnei Rabba. Maybe it's a nice thing, but the chiyuv that makbid Pnei Rabba, I think he says only Beis HaMikdash when they have Oler Regel, then also to be makbid Pnei Rabba. But if there's no Oler Regel, I think there's also no makbid Pnei Rabba. That doesn't say over here, but I recall that there's such another Yehuda maybe. The Gemara
Also,
continues-
just as a side point, I heard him say the word uman, and that's not about a regel. So here, aren't we only talking about the regalim? Rosh Hashanah is not a regel,
right.
is it?
No, you're right. You're right.
Yes.
But it does say Chodesh v'lo Shabbos, that the Gemara seems to say here that people are not used to this, that the Hakul Pnei Rabba b'regel, how about Chodesh and Shabbos? The whole source really comes from Chodesh and Shabbos. It sounds like Chodesh and Shabbos also is supposed to go to Hakul Pnei Rabba. The Gemara doesn't make a big deal out of it. The Gemara talks about regel, but the source that the Gemara is doing it out from says even Chodesh and Shabbos also. And there is a gears over there in Rosh Hashanah that if he's close by, then he's supposed to go Chodesh and Shabbos also. If he's far away, then he goes on the regel. But
we could say, yes, but we could say that Rosh Hashanah is Yotzei min HaKlal of Rosh Chodesh.
I wouldn't think so. Maybe, but I wouldn't think so.
Why do we not, we don't bench Chodesh?
I don't think that dafka would be a reason, and not the same source. The reason.
There's a reason for that. That's Bekesi Yom Chagenu. There's a reason in halacha for that we don't bench Chodesh. But it's the same as any other Rosh Chodesh in terms of other things.
Maybe. Anybody else? Anything else? Somebody
It
else?
could be extra meaning to wish the Rabbi Shabbos.
Maybe. I don't. The Maisa people. I don't know people that come to be Makbid Pnei Rabba, Chodesh and Shabbos. I don't know, but the post can talk about it.
Chodesh is we learn it from Shaul and David. No?
Talking about being Makbid Pnei Rabba. Doesn't say about it. You're talking about the Sudash Chodesh. Here it's talking about this is the possible Chodesh Lo Shabbos that says by the Shunamis. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. One more story.
I know what the minhag is. I don't know where the makor is. That's why I didn't open my mouth. But the minhag is that there's oros for each day. So it would be dafka on the day because the oros are there. But during Chol HaMoed, there's also oros, but it might be slightly different. But all those other days, they have their certain or. So that's why by Chasidus, you would want to see the Rebbe on that day if you could.
Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Ma'aser Rabbi Eliezer Shabbos B'Gal Elyon. B'Sukkos Shel Yochanan B'Rabbi Loi B'Kesari V'Amelo B'Kesari Yom. It was a story of Rabbi Eliezer. That's Rabbi Eliezer talking about Rabbi Eliezer the whole time. That he spent Shabbos. He spent Shabbos, which we'll talk about soon, in Galilee Elyon, Upper Galilee, in the sukkah of Yochanan, the son of Rabbi Eloi, in Kesari, and some say Kesari Yom. There's a problem here. They say because Kesari is not in Galilee Elyon, so some take out Galilee Elyon. But whatever it is, he went to the Rabbi Eliezer, came to the sukkah of Yochanan Rabbi Eloi in Kesari, some say Kesari Yom. Begiel Chama the sukkah, and it got sunny. The sun, as the sun rises, it starts spreading. So they were first in the sukkah, and then it came sunny in the sukkah. Started becoming sunny. So the Yochanan Rabbi Eloi, he asked Rabbi Eliezer, may I spread out a sheet over the sukkah? So we're going to see soon that it wasn't sukkahs. This sukkah over here, everyone should jump up. Of course you can't, because Pierce that you're not allowed to put a sheet on top of the sukkah. But we'll see soon that it wasn't sukkahs. But the Gemara doesn't say so yet. So he asked, can I spread out a sheet in order to protect us from the sun? So Rabbi Eliezer told him something that has nothing to do with the subject. He changed the subject. He said there's no shevet that didn't have a shofet. In times of the shoftim, you had the Sneal ben Kanaz, Shamgar ben Anas, Deborah, all of the shoftim. So every shevet had a shofet. Rashi makes a cheshbon, but he doesn't know all of them. Rashi says that some of them I know that you can tell the different shvatim, but some of the shvatim I don't know which shofet came from them, and some of the shoftim we don't know which shevet they're from. So like there's enough to go around that not that we know exactly which one is from which. But he said you should know that every shevet had a shofet. It could be there's something secretive going here behind the scenes what he meant to tell him, but the Pashup Shah, he just told him something that has nothing to do with the subject. They continued talking over there, and without covering the sukkah, and the sun continued, and it came after sukkah was filled with sun. So he asked him again, he didn't ask him the first time, so he hoped, and the second time we'll ask him, can I spread out a sheet? There's no shevet that didn't come out of it prophets. Shevet Yudah ben Yamin and Midu Malachim al Pi Neviim. Yudah and Benjamin, they had kings through Neviim. The Neviim are the ones who anointed the kings. Shaul and David. Some take out the word P, because the way it says Vayas, it sounds like Yudah and Benjamin did not have Neviim, but at least they had that Neviim were the ones who made the kings. But some take out the word P, and it means Malachim al Neviim. Besides having prophets, they also had kings. That every shevet had Neviim, and Yehuda, besides that, they also had kings. Okay, question of the gears. Anyway, he again told him something has nothing to do with the subject. He wants to know if you're allowed to cover the sukkah, and he's just talking about the Debate Torah. Then the sun came further, and Rabbi Lezer was ready. The sun was going to come on him, and Yochanan, the host, Yochanan Rabbi Loi was concerned that Rabbi Lezer is going to get in the sun, so he didn't ask any questions already. Nothing. Yochanan Sadun appears allowed. So he took a sheet, and he did. The Rebbe didn't say that, so he put a sheet over the sukkah. So Rabbi Lezer left the sukkah. So Rabbi Lezer folded his towels on him, whatever the way it's like saying, he zipped up his coat, whatever. Or whatever, not a coat over here, but it means he put his talus in a way that he could be arranged in a way that he could walk out, and he left. Because if he'd stayed there, it also would be a silent haskama that you're allowed to do it on Yontif, and he didn't want to say that you're allowed to do it on Yontif. The question was, are you allowed to? He didn't answer 2 times, and the third time, when it was done in his presence, if he would stay there, people would say that he holds like this mutter. He didn't want to make any psak. And the Gemara says, why did he not answer the question? Not because he just was changing the subject. He never said anything that he didn't hear from his Rebbe, and this particular Allah he didn't know. He might have an opinion, but he didn't have a Masorah from his Rebbe, so he didn't want to pass him. Why didn't he just say, I don't know, or I didn't hear about it, I don't know? I don't know. But the Gemara is saying that he just changed the subject. The Gemara is the kasha, how did Rabbi Lezer get to the sukkah of Yochanan Rabbi Lo in Kesari? Rabbi Lezer lives in Lud. Rabbi Lezer knows some sukkah that he can't change sukkahs. He also have to be a 7-day sukkah, and he wasn't there for the whole sukkah 7 days. It says the Shabbos, but it doesn't say that he came for the whole sukkahs. And he holds not allowed to have sukkahs in the middle of the Chag. You can't change sukkahs. You can't have a borrowed sukkah. You have to be a 7-day sukkah, your own. The answer is regular achar havoy. It wasn't sukkahs. The Gemara also could have asked. I think the Gemara could have asked also, how could you put a sadar on the sukkah if it's sukkahs? You're not the Yotze. But the Gemara says this kasha that he wouldn't be able to go. You have to have a 7-day sukkah. The Gemara says the taka wasn't sukkahs. It says sukkah before, but it means it was a shack. It was some kind of a shed. They were sitting in. It was comfortable, and they were eating outside. They were sitting outside, and then it became sunny. He wanted to know if you're allowed to put a sheet over the sukkah. Why not?
Yeah, but why is there a problem with the Rabbi Eliezer? Why would you have to walk out? There's no thief on the sukkah.
Yeah, the issue was not sukkahs at all. The issue was that
Was Shabbos? Was it Shabbos?
The Gemara doesn't know. The Gemara thinks one more line. The Gemara is going to say is that Yontif or Shabbos. It wasn't. So far, it could be Shavuos or Pesach, and the issue was not about the sheet on top because you're not using the sukkah. It wasn't sukkahs b'chlal. The issue was, are you allowed to put a sheet? As the Gemara is going to say soon, maybe it's called Mosef Alol Arai. Maybe it's considered that you're building. The fact that you're putting a sheet on top of the wall, on top of the roof, maybe that's like you're making more of the roof. Maybe you're not allowed to do that, not because of sukkahs. You're not allowed to put an umbrella because it's an oil. Maybe this also, but here there already is an oil already. There's already
It's a structure. You didn't put it up.
Rebbe, when Rashi says Atzeres, does he mean Shavuos?
There was some kind of a roofing already. There was no roof. There was a roof. There was some kind of a
but there's sun coming through.
So he
want the sun, so he puts.
So that's the question.
Like an umbrella.
So are you saying you're not allowed to?
No.
So the Muslim talking about it. Are you allowed to? If Lezer didn't say that you're allowed, he didn't say.
Not why is the Rabbi Eliezer walking out?
Because he didn't want to say that it's mutter. Maybe it's asa. We're going to see something a little bit more.
When Rashi says Atzeres, does he mean Shavuos? Because if he says Shmini Atzeres, why isn't it Maris Ayin?
Marasayan for what?
You're not supposed to be in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres.
You're not supposed to be mechaven for the mitzvah of sukkah and shmini atzeres. It doesn't say, it could be the Gemara says if you have to be in the sukkah, so then it says you should make a little bit of opening that they should know that it's not a sukkah. It's doesn't, you can say the pasha says that atzeres is shvuos. But it could be Pesach also if you want. It means that it wasn't sukkahs. The Moshe Kasha is not a problem. Besides that it wasn't a sukkah, that you have to have a 7-day sukkah. That how did he come to visit Yochanan ben Rabbi Eloi? There's not a problem that you're not supposed to go traveling on sukkahs. Rabbi Eloi is the one who says you're supposed to be home. How did he go traveling? The answer is Shabbos Avoy. It was Shabbos, a regular Shabbos. It wasn't Yom Tov at all. It was a regular Shabbos. The Moshe Kasha, how come he didn't know that if you're allowed to put a sheet? He should have said, no, you're not allowed to. He already said something which must have been from his Rebbe. Rabbi only said things from his Rebbe, but we know a Mishnah that says Rabbi holds you're not allowed to. So why was he questioning if you're allowed to do it or not? Why did he not want to say not allowed to? It's not. If you have a window shutter, Rabbi says you're only allowed to close it if it's already tied and suspended. Then you're allowed to close it onto the window. But if it's not a removed board, you're not allowed to put it into the window in order to stuff it, to shut it on Shabbos. So too, the sheet, which is not attached, you shouldn't be allowed to put on top of this shed. So you should have said, no, you're not allowed to. Over there it says, they're going to say that you are allowed to, but Rabbi Eliezer himself says you're not allowed to. So why did Rabbi Eliezer not want to say that you're not allowed to? The Gemara says on the next page, if you're mavatal, maybe when you make a shutter, it might be that you're going to permanently leave it over there. Then it's surely yourself. But over here it's a sheet, you're surely going to take it off afterwards. It's only temporary. So there, Rabbi Eliezer might also agree that it's mutter. He might hold that it's mutter, and he didn't want to say his opinion because he didn't hear from his Rebbe. That's the end of the sugya. And just to chazer over the halachas we had today, the halacha comes out very simple. The first halacha was about achilas arai, which we said that is until an egg, including an egg, but more than that, you're not supposed to eat out of the sukkah. You could be machmir, and it's not considered arrogance, but you don't have to be machmir. Agav, the post will say, I think the Ran maybe they're upset that it was not machmir, that it's not considered a zilzul if you're not machmir. If you want to be machmir, you can be machmir, but you don't have to. That's the first Mishnah. After that, also Agav, we said that Birchas Hamazon is on the Kazayas, and Tilas Adayim is for Kazayas without a bracha, and a Kibetza with a bracha on the Tilas Adayim. Rabbi Eliezer originally held you have to have 14 sudas because Teshuvah came to do it, but he himself retracted also. Teshuvah came to do it just means to eat whatever you want to do. But the first night, everybody else that you have to have a meal because of Gzera Shava from Tesvav from Pesach, that you have to eat the first night. Rabbi Eliezer says that I agree to that, that you don't have to have 14 sudas, it's only one meal. That one meal, if you missed it, you're going to do Tashlumen during Sukkot, even during Shmini Atzeres, and it's not a din in the Sukkot, it's a din in the Yantif, and you can have Tashlumen, but Rabbi says there's no Tashlumen, even during Sukkot, there's no Tashlumen. According to Rabbi Eliezer, that there was a thing of Tashlumen, so the Gemara says not only you can't just eat a meal of Shmini Atzeres, you have to have the Shmini Atzeres meal for Shmini Atzeres, but you could add something. Surely you have a whole double meal, but you don't have to just add on Minyan Takim, also will be enough to be considered a Tashlumen. But again, we pass there's no Tashlumen, you can't make it up anymore. Rabbi Eliezer, who originally held you have to have 14 sudas because that's normal, Teshuvah came to do 2 meals a day. So even somebody that only eats 1 meal a day, he said you should eat some appetizers in order to be two meals a day. But the mice meal not like that. You don't have to have 2 meals a day. Again, the Mishnah says it is a commendable thing to have 2 meals a day on one in the night, one in the day during Chol HaMoed, but you're not mechuyev to. The Gemara says, and that's mitzvah Hilchos Yontif, not mitzvah B'Sukkos Teshuvah. Also Chol HaMoed Pesach also there's an Inyan, the same thing as Pesach. So Sukkot also have to have 2 meals a day, but it's nothing to do with the Sukkah. After that, there's machlokes if you have to have a 7-day Sukkah or not. Rabbi says yes, and we all like Rabbanan that you don't have to. What else was there? According to Rabbi he's masking if it fell, you can rebuild it again. And also a Gersh and his guy, his God, also Rabbi holds that he's high for Sukkahs to rest, but do it not like that. It's not a machlokes about a borrowed Sukkah, a stolen Sukkah. Everybody else is not the Yotze, but a borrowed Sukkah is a machlokes. Rabbi says lachat, Sukkah not a lachat. Rabbi say you're right. The stolen Sukkah is not good, but kol ezech b'yishol yeshiva Sukkah is mashma. But then in one Sukkah, Am Yisrael could be, which means that it's only borrowed. And that's what we pass. You Yotze with a borrowed Sukkah. The din of to be makul pnei rabo, the Gemara says according to Rabbi Eliezer, not if you're going to leave your wife for the whole day. If you can come back the same day, so then do both. Be home and also go to be makul pnei rabo. But if not, then stay home and don't be makul pnei rabo. The Rambam doesn't bring it down because the Mishnah says that the Rambam doesn't pass like it. A source might be from the Gemara, but the Rabbi Bar Huna. This I heard from somebody else, not from the Kesef Mishnah. Rabbi Chavshush, he said maybe the source is from the Rabbi Bar Huna that they slept by the riverside on Sukkot. So that holds the means that they went away for Sukkot. Rashi seems to say that the mitzvah of Pnei Rabo is the day of Yontif itself. I don't know if the post can talk about that. And the last Gemara talked about not Sukkot, not even Yontif, on regular Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer was visiting Yochanan Rabbi Loi, and the question was about if you're allowed to put a sheet, is it called Mosaf Halo Arai? We're going to say that it's permissible, but Rabbi Elazar himself was questionable because he holds that sometimes you're not allowed to be Pokek alone here, that it was not Batel. He didn't have a Masorah about it. He had an opinion, but he didn't want to say his opinion, and therefore he didn't answer the question. Each time he changed the subject, and he said that every Shevet had a Shofet, every Shevet had a Nevi'im, and he didn't answer the question. Yashikor, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Yashikor. Good day, everybody.
יישר כוח, תודה.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Have a good day.
you. Yashikor.